seeking time with him ahead of his second term. In a news conference at Mar-a-Lago yesterday, Trump pointed to a shift in tone he says he's hearing from top executives now versus back in 2016.
This is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before, one of the big differences between the first term. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something. So, yeah, the biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. Well, they've gone through 4 years, and, you know, it wasn't easy for me, but it wasn't easy for them either. And that's a great thing, though. Getting along is a great thing. So Tim Cook was here. I think he's done an incredible job at Apple, and he talked about the future of Apple. It's going to be a bright future. But we have many others also, and not in that business. And we do have Jeff Bezos, Amazon, coming in sometime during the week. Look forward to that. We have a lot of great executives coming in. The top executives, the top bankers, they're all calling. And honestly, in the first time, I don't know what it was. It's like a complete opposite. In the first one, and the press has covered that fairly, actually, for change. The first one, they were very hostile. And maybe it was my fault, but I don't really think so. They were just very right from the beginning. And this one is much less hostile. It's really the opposite of hostile.
You know, Peter Baker, I want you to sort through that. A lot of people are talking about any CEO goes to see Donald Trump. They talk about kissing the ring or bending the knee. There's not a CEO that's seen him this time that I don't think didn't see him last time. We all remember seeing Tim Cook around the table in the White House the first term. You'd have Jamie Dimon, everybody else go in, and, you know, it's what they do. It's what they do. If it's a Democratic president, if it's a Republican president, Donald Trump this term, Donald Trump last term. I'm curious what your thoughts are, though, on what you heard yesterday from the press conference on Donald Trump regarding the fact that he says businesses are willing to work with him more this term than last term.
Well, look, you know, I think business leaders have understood over time that the way to stay on Donald Trump's good side is to flatter him, is to pay homage to him, in effect. And it's to, you know, from their point of view, they're not politicians. They're there to represent their shareholders and their boards and their company's interests. And it's in their company's interest to stay on his good side. We have seen that Donald Trump, while a Republican in name, has been very willing to, you know, interfere in the marketplace in a way that's traditionally not laissez-faire conservative free market politics. When he gets angry at a company, when he gets angry at an owner, he tries to declare winners and losers, in effect, in the marketplace. We saw that when he tried to stop the Time Warner merger to punish CNN. We saw that time and again with Jeff Bezos when he tried to find ways to punish Amazon through, you know, higher postal rates or taking away a Pentagon cloud servicing contract. You know, he is not averse to using the power of the presidency to intervene in the marketplace against companies that get on his bad side. So these guys don't want to be on his bad side.
Well, and you know, Willie, talking again to business leaders on both sides of the Atlantic, they're just trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen. Are the tariffs a bluff? You know, or is he going to move through with the tariffs? And so there is right now so many questions over what Donald Trump they're going to get on January the 20th. Everybody is scrambling. And I say on both sides of the Atlantic. I heard the same thing in London that I heard in New York with top business leaders on Thursday, which is we don't know what he's going to do. We're trying to figure it out. Andrew Ross Sorkin's here yesterday saying the Fed board's trying to figure it out, but they can't price in what's going to happen on January the 20th because they don't know.
Yeah, that's the big thing I keep hearing too. Is the tariff threat real or is it a bluff? I think a lot of them think it's a bluff. That once people get around the table with them and say, hey, this is bad for our the economy, it's bad for the people who voted for you, it raises their prices, maybe that will put the brakes on some of that. But Jillian, you look at these CEOs going down there, their job is not to participate in a political resistance against Donald Trump. Their job is to make their company successful, and they need the U.S. government. They need to have a read of Donald Trump and where things are going to do that. So not surprising that they're meeting with him. But what is your sense of what not just American CEOs, but the world is bracing for, is prepared for, is expecting from a second term?
Well, here is what we do know. We do know that Donald Trump's election has unleashed astonishing animal spirits. And by animal spirits, I'm referring to the economist John Maynard Keynes, who was from King's College, Cambridge, who argued that when people start to feel wildly optimistic and confident, that basically causes them to spend more, invest more, hire more, and you get this self-fulfilling cycle of growth. And right now, everyone can sense that there's an extraordinary explosion of animal spirits in America in relation to the economy, and particularly relative to all the other major trading partners like Europe or Asia right now. So the CEOs are acting like rational business people, saying, we want to be part of that. We want to be part of this growth story. However, that's what we do know. What we don't know is what on earth is going to unfold in January, because the reality is that what Trump has actually said about the economy is very contradictory. And the question right now is, how is anyone going to actually resolve those contradictions?
Interesting.
Well, in your latest piece for the Financial Times, it's titled "The Chain of Contradictions in Trump's Economic Policy."
And in it, Jillian, you write in part, quote, "What on earth will happen to U.S. economic policy when Donald Trump becomes president?" That question is already sparking widespread concern, and even the supposedly smart money seems unsure of the answer. The uncertainty partly reflects Trump's erratic style and taste for brinksmanship, but it also highlights something else. His recent policy pledges are riddled with contradictions. Investors can only watch to see how these do or do not play out.
And a top Wall Street banker last week said, okay, this is how we think it's going to work. Regulatory relief
No idea.
will somehow offset the drag on the economy by the tariffs. And he was trying to sort through and explain to everybody how he thinks. But everybody's guessing. And
well, it's important to say that actually the Trump team have a very different vision of economics and how it does or doesn't work from the orthodoxies we've had in the last few years. So just to give a couple of examples, it's been traditionally assumed that tariffs will strengthen the dollar. The dollar already has risen by about 6-7% in the last few weeks on the back of expectations of higher growth. But if you have a stronger dollar, it's going to be a lot harder to cut the trade deficit, which Donald Trump says he's very worried about. And Donald Trump keeps saying he wants to have a weaker dollar. So go figure. Or another example, he says he wants to slash the deficit from 6% of GDP to 3.5%, which is basically to stop America overspending. And yet he wants massive tax cuts. So maybe they are going to see a situation where much of the old economic orthodoxy is wrong, and strong growth, revenue from the tariffs, that will all make the sums add up. But right now, even though the smart money is going, we just don't know what's going to happen.
So, Peter Baker, the debate over tariffs is just one where Trump says one thing, and there's a sense that perhaps actually he'll moderate and do something less when he actually takes office. Another one is mass deportations. There's an idea that maybe the numbers won't be nearly as big as he promised on the campaign trail. But that's leading to some infighting in Trump world. It's not spilling out into view quite as publicly as it did the first time around, but the leaks are there, and there's a divide among sort of the hardliners, the right-wingers, who, let's say, on the immigration issue, do want him to try to deport 10, 15 million people, and others who say that's simply not possible. More moderate voices, even business leaders, saying that. So take us behind the scenes here a little bit and illuminate us a little bit more about that fight within Trump world, including how some of the hardliners, the true believers, fear they may be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, of course, the first time he ran, he talked about building the wall, right? In other words, stop the flow of people coming into the southwestern border. He didn't really succeed in building the wall. He only built part of it. And during Biden's presidency, Biden's policies did encourage, or at least allow, the influx of a lot of people that worked to President-elect Trump's political benefit. But here's the conundrum for Trump. By the time he is taking office, that flow across the border has actually been minimized again. Biden's policies that were changed over the summer have brought the crossings down to where they were when Trump left office. So there's not a lot of progress for him to make in terms of continuing to reduce that flow at the border beyond where he had already done 4 years ago. So what does he have to do? He has to get rid of the people inside the country. That's the way he sees it. Well, 11 million people it seems impractical to most people that you're going to be able to deport them. In his entire 4-year term, when Trump was in office, as tough on immigration as he was, he deported fewer than 1 million people. That was smaller, lower than either Bush or Obama did proportionally during their term. So the idea that you're going to get to 11 million seems impractical to the more conventional Republicans who might be part of this debate happening inside Trump world. But the people who are more ideologically committed point out that he made this promise very explicitly, and if he doesn't produce, if he doesn't deliver on it, it will be held against him. And they want very strong action on his part. It's the one most central signature promise they say he has to live up to.
All right. During his news conference yesterday, Donald Trump threatened media outlets and journalists, promising more lawsuits against the press. Trump appeared more emboldened after ABC settled a defamation lawsuit with the president-elect over the weekend. The network issued an apology and agreed to give $15 million toward Trump's yet-to-be-built presidential library. Trump also mentioned other targets for legal action, including CBS News, journalist Bob Woodward, and the people of Iowa, referring to the Des Moines Register for publishing the Ann Seltzer poll that incorrectly predicted the presidential election.
I feel I have to do this. I shouldn't really be the one to do it. It should have been Justice Department or somebody else, but I have to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it, but we have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt, almost as corrupt as our elections.
So, Willie, let's sort through this. First of all, on ABC, Bill Gruskin, who, of course, a professor, a journalist, a professor, said ABC shouldn't have folded. They shouldn't have paid the $15 million. And at the same time, he called the interview a, quote, train wreck, and said that it opened up ABC to liability. So at least there was a case there that would allow Trump's lawyers to open up discovery, do the sort of things that nobody at ABC and none of the journalists would want, turning over, cell phones, texts, emails, the sort of things that you see in some cases. So that's sitting right here. Ann Seltzer, and doesn't have to worry. The Des Moines Register, they don't have to worry. They will not get, the Trump team won't get past summary judgment. That'll be thrown out very quickly. CBS News, for their edits, what they did in the edit bay on 60 Minutes, doing what 60 Minutes has been doing for like 60 years. That's not going to get past
what every show's
summary judgment. What every show's been doing, that's going to be thrown out. New York Times going to sit there and they go, boom, thrown out. They're all going to get thrown out. There was, as Bill Gruskin and others said, there were mistakes made in that interview that allowed the process to go far enough for discovery to be opened up. Would ABC have won if they had fought to the end? There are a lot of lawyers that think they would have. Did ABC want to put it behind them for a variety of reasons? Yeah. But does that mean Ann Seltzer's going to have to worry about it? No. Does that mean the New York Times? No. Does that mean Bob Woodward and Simon Schuster's going to have? No. I mean, you go down the list, and all of those are going to be thrown out like that. So you can make the threats all you want to make the threats, but at the end of the day, we still have a pretty strong First Amendment, and that ain't going to change in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps Donald Trump and his team are together emboldened by ABC.